Welcome to Optimizing Media for Speed, how web team cut their page load times by 60%. My name is Danny Valentine. I'm one of the developer support engineers here at Cloudinary. This is an approximation of the customer's website when they came to us. As you'll see, we have a hero video here, a number of featured products, which have a sort of a zoom effect when you hover over them. When you hover, sometimes it takes a little while for the animation to actually take place, just because the assets are so large. Some feature collection, the spring line, the urban line, etc. A few customer testimonials and things, and then entries from their latest blog posts. Here in the window pane, there's like a sort of strange artifacting going on as it zooms in and out. This is again just because of the sheer size of the assets that are being used. So if I open up the inspector and open up the network tab, once we refresh the page, you'll see this entire site, once we load in, is about 40 megabytes in size, which for an initial landing page is quite significant. The video that we see here, if I just go ahead and inspect that and open up the tab, the video that we see here, if I open up my media inspector, it's an MP4, 12.5 megabytes in size, and it's 1980 by 1080. So it's like a full HD video, which is taking up a lot of bandwidth on the user's browser experience. Equally, we have our modern jacket page here, which is one of the products that the customer is selling. And we have an image picker. And again, clicking that, it takes a little while to load in after the click has taken place. Again, just because the assets are so large. Looking at our network tab, if we refresh that, we've got 13 megabytes here. So we're talking about 55-ish megabytes just in 2 pages alone, which doesn't make for the best experience in the world. The mobile experience isn't the best. We are loading in, as I showed you, the very large video, and images are much the same story. If we open up our media inspector, we're talking thousands and thousands of pixels per image. This is 5,000 by 8,000 pixels. It's a 4 megabyte JPEG. It's excessive, to say the very, very least. What we'd like to do is implement some optimizations, because not only is it slow performing, but also for mobile users, it's a really bad experience. If we add some network throttling to emulate a 4G connection over, say, an iPhone, if we refresh that page, you can see it doesn't even look like there's a hero video there. It's taking far too long to load. All of the assets are requested at the exact same time, meaning that this is loading in slowly. The modern jacket is loaded in fairly quickly, as have the shoes. The other collections are loading in kind of piecemeal. It's really, really a poor experience. And again, downloading 40 megabytes worth of content over a 4G connection, it's going to be slow, it's going to be painful, and users get very frustrated. So what we'd like to do, if I remove the throttling, you'll be able to see for yourself. There we go. Do have the hero video working. So what we'd like to do is to apply some optimizations to just improve the overall experience. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the page source. And first thing I'd like to do is optimize that video, because that is the largest element on the page. So if you're not familiar with the Cloudinary URL, what we have is the delivery URL, the cloud name, the asset type, be it image, video, or raw, the delivery type, as well as the public ID of the file. So here's our hero image in the StyleHive folder, and any transformations we want to place, we would place here. So I'm going to apply F-Auto and Q-Auto and save that. If you're not familiar with these transformations, what F-Auto does is it automatically picks the best format for your device and browser. Q-Auto optimizes the quality of that asset. So when combined together, you can get some pretty significant savings. I'll give you a quick demonstration. So if we refresh the page here, you'll see it's taken a moment to load in, because what we're doing is we're requesting a different version of that video in the background. Open a new tab. Okay, so you'll see here, this is the first request for this image. So we're actually creating it in real time. This is what's known as an on-the-fly transformation. So it's about a 20-second long video. So it'll take a few moments to generate that. But once it does, there we go. We'll be able to get all the detail that we need. So open up our media inspector, and we can see it's gone from a 12.5 megabyte MP4 file to a 3.7 megabyte WebM file. So the resolution hasn't changed, but simply optimizing the quality and the file format, you're already looking at about a third of the size. So it's quite a significant change. What we also want to do is not just optimize our videos, but also optimize our images as well. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to open up our page source, find all image files. So we're just going to select everything which has image upload in it. I'm going to apply the exact same transformation, F-Auto and Q-Auto. We save that. We refresh the page. It'll take a second to generate these assets on the fly, because again, it's the first time we have requested them. Once it does, though, you'll see they've popped in a lot quicker. If we go to our network tab and empty the cache and reload, we've gone from 40 megabytes to about 20. So again, a pretty significant saving. We've halved the size just by adding a very small transformation to our delivery URLs. If we go ahead, though, and have a look here, you'll see that we're displaying everything in a square. So despite the images actually being rectangular in nature, we're displaying everything on this page as a square. So for some assets, it might look okay, but for others, it's less than ideal. So what we'd like to do is go ahead and resize these images to make them square. A very quick way of doing that would be to open up your HTML source. I'm going to add an additional transformation here. So we want to make it square. So let's say a width of 750 and a height of 750. We save that. We're going to go ahead and refresh the page over here. And we have new assets. You notice they loaded a lot quicker, but they're also squished and not looking sort of production ready. So the reason this has happened is because when you request an asset and you specify both dimensions, by default, we'll use the C scale cropping mode. So this effectively stretches the image to the resolution that you specify. So we've taken this, which was, I think, 6,000 by 8,000, and we've made it 750 by 850, and it's just compressed it so it fits into that square. What would look a lot better is if we use a different cropping method. So for instance, we could use C-fill. C-fill takes the entire image that you've selected, and it makes sure that it fills the bounding box without applying any white space, without applying any stretching. So let's go ahead and implement that and show you a little bit what it looks like. So we're just going to say C-fill, save that, close this one off, and we're going to open up in a new tab. Wonderful. So you can see this is looking a lot more normal, a lot more sort of production ready to compare with what we've just applied previously. We have the old version and we have the new version. So I'm sure you'll agree it looks a lot better, even though perhaps the top of this model's head's a bit cut off, or maybe other things don't look quite as they should. One way we can improve this is by adding a gravity to our transformation. So the gravity is basically just explaining where on the image you should focus. So if we go ahead and use G-Auto, what this will do is use our automatic gravity. What this does is we analyze the image and we determine what the most focal point of that image is, and we try to keep it in frame. So again, if I'm going to create a new tab just to make sure we can flip backwards and forwards and do a comparison. Here we go. So in the featured section, we now have the models in the center of the frame. Same for the modern jacket. The sneakers are looking good. Everything else is looking much better than it previously was. And you may have noticed that the banding artifacting that we had in the center of the window here is now gone because we reduced it from absolutely massive dimensions to 750 by 750. However, this is a clothing retailer. So they want to demonstrate the value of their products. They want to show off the products themselves. So we're actually not perhaps showing the best image that we can. So an alternative cropping method that we could use would be C-Auto. So the way that C-Auto and G-Auto works is similar, but a little bit different in a fairly significant way. C-Auto kind of takes the entire composition of the image into consideration rather than just like the one focal point. And it tries to keep that composition whilst respecting the dimension that you specified. So again, actions speak louder than words. Let me give a quick demonstration. We'll replace C-Fill with C-Auto. Save that. Open up the new tab. And there we go. We can see it's looking a lot better than it previously did. So the jacket is very much on display here, as is the dress. So it's looking, again, a lot more sort of production ready. Similarly here with the urban line, the model here is in frame better than we had previously. The final thing we need to do here as well is to optimize our video. We've done so already in terms of the format and the quality. We need to adjust the height of that as well. So we're going to go ahead and go to our video here. I'm just going to take it from 1920 by 1080 and change it to H720. Save that. Once again, we refresh the page. It's going to create that video in the background using an on-the-fly transformation and show the 720p version of it. So again, we'll open up our inspect element, and we can see here we're using the 720 version of the asset. Now, you may have noticed I've mentioned on-the-fly transformations. The opposite of that would be eager transformations. An eager transformation is a transformation that is applied when you upload the asset. So it could be that you've got various images or videos that you want to use for social media. So you could upload that to your Cloudinary account. set up an eager transformation to make all the different renditions that you need. So a perfectly square version, a portrait version, a landscape version. And the beauty of eager is it just allows you to do this ahead of time. So for large videos or large images, this can be quite beneficial. One final point before we move on to the next section. If we refresh the page here, now we've optimized our assets, so our videos and our images. We've gone from a 40 megabyte web page down to just 3.3. So the saving is massive. This is less than 10% of the size of the original. So it's pretty useful. One final thing we're going to do before we move to the next section actually is to implement some lazy loading. If you're not familiar with lazy loading, it's a way of deferring the download of image and video assets until they're needed. By default, when you land on a web page, your browser will take the HTML, it'll load all the assets that it needs, so the style sheets and the JavaScript and images and videos, etc., and load it all at once. Using lazy loading, it'll defer that loading until later, so it won't request those assets until they're needed. For example, many users might land on this web page and go, modern jacket, yeah, I think I'll have a look at that one. And they'll navigate away from the page. They're not looking at all these other assets. So loading in any of these images and videos, it's redundant. So that user is going to be downloading extra data that they don't need. Your bandwidth costs are going to increase unnecessarily because these videos and images aren't being needed. So by implementing lazy loading, we can improve the situation a bit. So there's a default HTML way of doing this. This has nothing to do with Cloudinary. It's just a kind of a best practice. So what we want to do is take everything that is below the fold. So here we've got our featured products. So everything beyond here, we want to load lazily. So I'm going to go into my source. I'm going to find the Explore Collections section. And all we need to do is find any image that we're interested in adding lazy loading to, and just say loading equals lazy. And I'm going to apply that to all images that are in this section. So we have our urban line here. We have the spring collection there. And further down, we've got our blog posts also. Blog post 1, 2, and 3. Wonderful. Now, save that. What I'll do is I'll pop open the mobile view and I'll give you a quick demonstration. So we refresh the page and we can see here in the network tab that we've loaded in the elegant dress, the modern jacket, and the casual sneakers. So these are things that are all before the fold. And we're creating a new version of the hero image whilst we wait as well, because we're now viewing for an iPhone. And then as we scroll down the page, you'll see we're now loading in the spring 2025 image. We scroll down a bit more and we're loading in the urban line image, as well as summer vibes, etc., etc. So basically this improves the experience by, one, not loading too many assets and excessively loading data onto the customer's device. And we're also making sure we're not using lots of bandwidth on our Cloudinary account, because those images aren't needed, so then therefore not requested. Similarly, if we go over to our product page. So right now we have a fully unoptimized product page. Clicking between the different elements sometimes takes a few moments to load in those different swatches. So what we can do is apply some transformations here. So what I'm going to do is simply add F-auto and Q-auto, as we did before. So we're going to take all of our images here, and we'll say F-auto, Q-auto to improve the format and the quality. This was a 20 megabyte page previously. We go over to our network tab, refresh the cache. And once that all loads in, you can see at the bottom here, it's creating those images on the fly. So we've now made this about 8 megabytes instead. So what's that? About a third of the size, approximately. So again, significant bandwidth savings. And just as before, we're loading in absolutely massive images, which we don't necessarily want to do. So if we look at our media inspector, this is, although we've optimized the format and the quality, we're still loading in 4,000 by 6,000 image, which is far in excess of what we'll ever need to do on a web platform. So we can close this off and apply some sizing. So we're going to go ahead and say, in this instance, we'll go for width of 650. Why not? Save that. Refresh the page. There we go. So it's going to create all those different assets on the fly. And so we've gone from 20 megabytes in size on this page to just 686 kilobytes. So less than a megabyte here, and from 40 down to 3. So significant bandwidth savings to be made when doing that. And that about concludes the demo.